our best energies for you, okay? Now, welcome to today's class. We are going to go over a couple of details. We are going to check some writings and some writing corrections that we made. In order to remember some aspects that we need to be aware regarding the two things that are important to be aware. First is the grammar and use of English mistakes. And secondly, also to be aware of how we are going to improve and make sentences better. And finally, have a better writing in terms of lexical resources use and forms of use. Therefore, that is going to be our first part of the job today. Secondly, we are going to go with Centro IELTS. We are going to review your advances. Some of you would like to share some doubts, ideas, or something that you have been doing. And I would love to know more about your advances. And also, I would like to know what are the things that are actually keeping you from advancing, the things that are like making the work difficult for you in any of the part of the IELTS, in any of the part of the test. So it will be important for me to know that, so I can plan, I can readapt the strategy for you. I can give you some advices. I can give you some plan to go for in order to improve those parts that have been difficult. All of you are in different stages of your IELTS preparation. However, I know that some of you will have questions regarding the parts you're in and how you can improve those parts. And finally, we are going to go through practice. We are going to do some speaking practice for students that are going to take the test soon, okay? The ones, if you are going to take the test within the next 4 weeks, you are in this list. If you are not going to take the test in the following 4 weeks, I invite you to stay, because we are going to make corrections, we are going to give advices, and we are going to work on the things that you need to improve in order to improve your score, okay? So let's go on with this first. Before we start, is there anything that you like to ask first, or something that you want to remember, or you don't want to forget, and then you want to ask, like first thing, or we wait until Centro IELTS to ask the question? So I'm just always open to your questions, and if you have doubts that you like to treat now, you can ask me now. Therefore, there is no stop for you to raise your hand and ask all the questions that you have regarding any part of the test. However, let us do this then. You can write down on a piece of paper if there is something that you want to remember, or if there is something that you want to ask. You can also do it in the chat. You can write down in the chat any question any doubt you might have, and then we are going to address that soon, right? I mean, when the time comes. So this is going to be approximately in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. We're going to go over those questions. Let's see. Let us see first. We're going to take a look of writing. There is something that I'd like to show you. Let us see now. All right, so we're going to take a look of one writing that we have here. This is one of your writings. However, it's just an anonymous writing. I mean, I don't like to share like the names of it, but this is one of your writings. Now, this score is 4, approximately 4. I can go 4, 4.5 because of the mistakes that shows and some uses that are not really complete, and the form in which it's done is not really the best way to develop a writing. We are going to analyze why. There are some reasons for this student to have a 4, and this person has to improve not only in his grammar performance, but also in the way that is writing regarding the coherence. I mean, coherence is okay, but then the length, the completion of the work is like too short, basically. The introduction is not is it's the best we can expect. Therefore, we are going to go over this writing first. So let us take a look first of the question. Most people have forgotten the meaning behind traditional religious festivals. During festival periods, people nowadays only want to enjoy themselves. To what extent you agree or disagree with this opinion? Okay, so let us first, the first step in this is always to analyze the question and see. Okay, Paloma, we're gonna go over, yeah, that's for Centro IELTS. So we're gonna go over the reading and we're gonna work with some reading questions so that we're gonna cover that in order to and then you can ask all the questions that you like, okay? So let us go through this. We're gonna take approximately until like 8. So like it's gonna be like 45 more minutes. And then we're gonna go over Paloma's questions. And we're gonna check on a reading to actually realize what problems she's having and then how she can improve those. Okay, so, but let us go first to this part. So we had a question basically. And this question, we always take a look of the two things that you already know about IELTS, right? So first is the announcement, or how the question, what the question is announcing. What do I need to know? What I need to know. What I need to know. And then we have the commitment, right? The commitment, what I have to do. This is important to realize always, and it's important to know. Sometimes we rely too much on the instructor. So the instructor, the structure that we have to aboard. But sometimes the structure, there is a distance between understanding the question and knowing what we have to do and the instructor. Sometimes there is a long distance between these two things. So that is why it's important to always, and our teachers told me that I needed to address this aspect regarding how we have to analyze questions and how we have to analyze them better. So that's important to keep in mind. Therefore, we have the announcements, what I need to know about the topic, and the commitment, what I have to do about this topic. So the question is agree or disagree? Agree, disagree. How many parts the question has? So let us analyze. Of course that you are going to do this very quickly. I mean, you will have no more than just 1 minute to realize this idea. Most people have forgotten the meaning behind traditional or religious festivals. That's one thing. That during festival periods, that is also regarding the topic. So there is nothing like different here. People nowadays only want to enjoy themselves. Basically, the question is telling us that the real reason why traditional celebrations are taking place is now forgotten by a more like entertaining form of going through these periods. Did you agree or disagree with that fact? Therefore, we know that the announcements is only one thing. So it's a big fact. It's a big fact, right? So the question is proposing us this big fact, or the announcements is telling this is what is happening, or this is what we believe is happening. Did you agree with me? Did you agree with this situation? Now we know what we have then, two commitments. First is the commitment of the agree or disagree. Now, what is going to be my personal commitment? My personal commitment is what I agree with. So I am going to agree with one of these two. Basically, I am going to agree or disagree with this. Therefore, let us say that we disagree. So it's no, I disagree. I disagree, so I have one developing paragraph. See, that is the first commitment. Remember that the commitment is the developing paragraphs. We always have an introduction and we always have a conclusion. See, we will never deal without these two. There's always an introduction, there's always a conclusion. And what we have to figure is if we are going to have 2 or 3 developing paragraphs. In this case, there is one main commitment, I disagree. So that is going to be basically my arguments. Then also I'm going to refer to a thesis, right? I'm going to give a main reason. A main reason for that. See, I disagree. And I'm going to have arguments that are going to support that main reason. However, my commitment is still incomplete. I also like to address why people would agree. Therefore, we are going to call this the opposite argument, the counter argument. Therefore, we are going to write here one argument that is going to address this topic. Okay? And finally, we are going to then
Sorry, can you just activate the microphone?
Someone is with the microphone open. So we need to actually trying to find who is. Right there, bingo. That's it. Now, therefore, then we can say that this is only one commitment. I mean, I have to agree or disagree, but also I cannot forget that it's mentioned in another part. We cannot leave the other part unmentioned. So that is why it's important to figure. Then we just figure quickly that this is 4-paragraph development. Remember that it's a minimum of 4 paragraphs, a maximum of 5 paragraphs. In order to make it simpler, in order to make it much simpler, don't try to deal too much with this structure, this other structure. Always think about paragraphs and always think about, okay, what is my commitment? What is my commitment? Okay. In questions that are advantages and disadvantages, or questions that are discuss both views, when the question is discuss both views, view number 1, view number 2, and then when the question tells and give your opinion, then we have a third part of it. We need to give our opinion, so that we have 3 commitments. The commitment will tell us the number of paragraphs that we are going to write. Is this always, should I be forced to do this? Not necessarily. You can still get out of this structure, right? If you are complying with the rubrics. Remember the rubrics, okay? Coherence and cohesion, grammar, range, and accuracy, lexical resources, proposal, lexical, what's the quality, what's the flexibility in which you're using this language, and basically the task achievement, the completion. Now, we are more worried about the completion this time. So we need to be aware that we are answering everything. And also, we are just mentioning all the facts and all the parts so that the question is completed. Not only because I have a conclusion, but also because I am addressing everything that the question is giving us, okay? Therefore, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, and we already deal with this. We already disagree. We're going to have a thesis to disagree, arguments. We are going to have a counter argument, not against us, but against the topic. And then we are going to resolve this argument, this opposite argument. We need to resolve it. And that is important to mention. When we have opposite arguments, especially in questions that are agree or disagree, choice, or questions in which they ask us our opinion only, and we have an opposite argument, we always have to resolve the opposite argument. We cannot leave it just open. So that is important to keep in mind. So first, let us see how this is constructed and agree or disagree. Now we have, first of all, let's see if there is an agreement. In general, the customs are being forgotten in time. Overall, in these times. This way, I agree that people only are concerned about enjoying himself, themselves. Well, there are some aspects now. This work can be actually done better. When we see here, we have the 2 main parts already addressed. So it's like we can consider this right? Like the paraphrasing of the main sentence. So we need to paraphrase the main sentence. What is the main sentence? I've forgotten the meaning behind traditional religious festivals, and people nowadays only want to enjoy themselves. Customs are always being forgotten in time overall these times. So I agree that people are only concerned about enjoying themselves. Okay, but the problem is, the first problem that we see is coherence. I mean, the first problem that we see is this paraphrasing does not really cover at least 70% of the main sentence with the announcement. When we are going to write an announcement like this one, right? We need to try to cover, or we need to try to paraphrase at least 70% of the announcement, 70% of the main sentence. That is important in order for us to demonstrate that we are writing the same sentence, but in different words. But we need to at least mirror 70% of that sentence. So that's the first thing that doesn't happen in this writing. So we have a problem here. The first problem is that in the introduction, the paraphrasing is not really complete. So if you look into the introduction part, this introduction, the first part, the paraphrasing, is incomplete. So there are two things that the paraphrasing is not mentioning. And the next problem, so first we got to name paraphrasing is incomplete. What is the second problem that we can see? The second problem, right? It goes and say, I agree that people are only concerned about enjoying themselves. Okay, but it's great to know, but the problem is that, do I have anything here that is saying that people are enjoying themselves? Do I have anything in this sentence? In this sentence? Is there something in that sentence so that this student can say that he or she agrees that people are only concerned about enjoying themselves? Is there something that can tell me that? Nothing. Therefore, there is a disconnection with the previous sentence. There is no unity. There is no connection with the previous sentence. Basically, this student is linking its opinion, right? This is the thesis, right? But this student is linking the thesis with the main sentence, not with the paraphrasing. That is why it is important to paraphrase completely. If this student had paraphrased everything, this student wouldn't have gotten that kind of problem. So it's like the paraphrasing then, it's not only incomplete, but actually there's no coherence. Is then failing. Coherence is failing. You know, we're not really coherent with the previous sentence. We are just coherent with the main sentence, but there is a disconnection. We need to try to make the writing connected itself. One sentence leads to its consequence, or its, in this case, reason, thesis, in which I just believe. Therefore, then we have coherence that is being affected in this part of it. So it's not that coherent. So when we go over the coherence, we are going to realize that if you go over here, the rubric, in coherence and cohesion, then something is happening, right? Something is happening there. Let's go and see the grammar. Grammar range and accuracy. Let's see the accuracy, because the major problems that we are seeing are in accuracy. And then lexical resources. And finally, we are going to analyze the task achievement. How complete the writing has been, or it is. Therefore, let's go over again. In many cases, the days that are marked as a special festival or religious days are taken by people as days off or holidays, and not considering the origin of this day. Usually this happens because as time passes, people always tend to forget the origin of festivals, especially the young people, okay? Sometimes the reason for this is the family, since the family does not pass along information to them about the origin of the festivals, or simply people don't care or do not care. There is an informality here. We won't like to use contractions in the writing, so people do not care. You know, people do not care of this. So therefore, we can say that there is an informal part done in it, and then we can just kind of correct it right there. Do not care about things. Do not care about things that happened in the past. They just live in the moment. All right. We can say that the explanation of this reason it's accurate. I mean, there is accuracy. Therefore, we can say that there is accuracy. There is coherence. So the problem is the coherence was not achieved in the first part. The first part was incomplete. But then now the thesis or the proposal that this student is actually having in the introduction is being met by the arguments that are actually achieving to support that statement, are concerned about enjoying themselves. And that idea is actually addressed here. You know, as always, one reason for that is because the generations or the family does not pass this form of celebrating or this importance of the date itself onto the older generations or their descendants, right? Children, their other relatives that are younger than them. Therefore, yes, that can really be that can really support that idea. Just concerned about themselves. There is a reason for that, right? But the thing is, let us see again how well this is actually being coherent, considering the origin of this day, taken by people as a free days off and holidays, not considering the origin of this day. Usually happens because, okay, now it says not considering the origin of this day. Okay, but something is missing here. I mean, the thing is, and all goes to have a good, see, everything goes to have a good paraphrasing in the introduction, because now we're not meeting the introduction again. People nowadays only want to enjoy themselves. And the sentence is always, you know, do not consider the origin of this day. Usually this happens because, okay, but how am I going to support that idea? Are concerned about enjoying themselves. This sentence is presenting a reason why, which is actually okay, but probably it's not really demonstrated with arguments that people just want to enjoy themselves. This sentence is actually explaining why, but not actually supporting the main idea of enjoying themselves. See? So there is also a problem with coherence in this sentence here. Now let us see the second sentence. Then the second sentence we are going to see right here, where it goes. Information to, okay. As time passes, always tend to forget the origin of festivals and the young people. Okay, sometimes the reason for this is the family. Okay, since that, okay. Well, actually, about the origin of festivals, or simply, they do not care about things that happened in the past, just live in the moment. Okay, so first, you can see in these two explanations, that's the student is addressing here in the introduction, is saying that because like to just enjoy themselves. Right? And then in the argument, they say families do not pass information or info along, you know, along the new generations, their offsprings and relatives that are younger. And then they say that is the other argument that the student is proposing, things that happen. They do not care about the things that happened in the past. So do not care about the past. Yeah, they do not care about the past. Okay, so now my question is this, and this is coherence. This is coherence. You might feel that the arguments that you are proposing are really fully engaged and supporting the thesis, the main reason that you are proposing. But in this case, we need to take a second look in order to see, well, if we really are doing that. Families do not pass along information. People do not care about the past. Now, how well these two sentences support that people only care about enjoying themselves? There is no correlation. There is no unity. There is no coherence. There is an explanation, the explanation why, but if you are going to write, I mean, is this completely wrong? Not at all. But we can say that this is 50% okay, right? It's 50% okay. This information will be better complemented if this student or this candidate addresses on and actually expand the topic on how people enjoy themselves. How people enjoy themselves. And different arguments can just arise on this topic. As they do not care about the past, the new way we live or the media, see, always blaming the media. So it's like the media are not really helping us to, the media are only concerned about just quote unquote, being more commercial in the ratings. And that is why instead of like recalling our events in the past, they just bring commercial, events or commercial music performances that are just the fashion of the moment in order for people to gain more rating, I would say, something like this. So that's probably that will help better, because then it's going to be actually more coherent to the reason that you gave. These explanations are perfect, and there are reasons why, but not exactly affirming and not exactly giving. See, when we propose a thesis, when we have a thesis, the arguments that are in the explanations here need to give muscle, need to make that thesis stronger. That is the mission of the supporting arguments. In this case, there is a disconnection with the supporting, with the theses. Well, I mean, although it's helping to explain why, it's not exactly making this idea of enjoying themselves stronger. In order for me to say, yeah, people only just enjoy themselves. Because we can talk about the things that people don't care about it, but are they really enjoying themselves? See, my question is, okay, with the explanations that you are giving me, when I ask if people are really enjoying themselves, are those explanations really supporting an answer for me to say, yeah, people are just enjoying themselves? That is true. You have already argumented that people are just enjoying themselves, but unfortunately, I'm not argumenting that in here. Therefore, it's not, see, the pieces do not exactly fit. The pieces just maybe overlap and they are related, but it's still too weak. See, if we criticize it, it's still too weak. It doesn't really hold itself really strongly. That is why when we say, okay, if we add something that is more related to how people enjoy or why people enjoy, and also to put this as an explanation of why people do not care, that will be okay. It will be better complemented, it will be more complete, and it will be more coherent. So that when I criticize the argument is really strong and engaged. So this is an engagement here. There is a strong engagement between the arguments and the thesis. Therefore, I may try, but I'm not going to be able to break it down. I mean, to break it, yes, to just pull it down, or bring it down. That basically, so that's important that we take a look of that, because coherence is 25% of our score in the IELTS. This is 25% of our score. Therefore, it's important to consider. This student will have its score downgraded because it's not completely coherent. Okay, so before we go next, I mean, actually, let us go next. Let's take a look at the grammar. Always the customs are. Now, when we write the word always first, we are actually using, when we write the word always first, we are actually using Spanish. We might be thinking in English. We might be actually not thinking in Spanish, but we are using a Spanish logic in order to produce. I might be thinking in English, but when I transfer the information to my hand, then I'm using a Spanish form to do it because I'm so accustomed to write in this form. So always, in Spanish, you can support that. Siempre la gente, perfect. In Spanish is, but then if you say always people, that is more like in a spoken form, but not actually. Usually always it's a frequency that always has to be after the auxiliary. Therefore, always is always used after have, always it's always used after the verb to be, always is usually those are the two auxiliaries in which always is after. Let us see this case. I don't exactly remember what is after here. People always tend to, no, that's actually was not, okay. Custom are, there you go. So in this case, we have the auxiliary are. Therefore, the frequency, sometimes, never, always, therefore, all those frequencies should go always after the auxiliary verb, not before the auxiliary verb. So that's important to give it to keep on that, or remember that. Forgotten in the time. Now, when we say the time and when we write the article there, we are referring to a time that is more specific. But in this case, we are just referring to time in general. That is why an article is not necessary, neither a nor the, because we are not referring to some specific time. We're just referring to time in general. That's why we don't need the article in front of that word. So it's important to consider. Now, these and these is for singulars. These is for plurals. Now we're talking about times, but not time is an overall measurement of time. We're talking about time as different occasions, different opportunities, different events, different occurrences. That's why we're talking about time there in a form that is a countable form. Here we're talking about time as an uncountable form because we're just referring to time. Here we are counting the times. That is why when we are referring to time in a more quantitative form, in this case, we're just being more countable, actually countable itself, then we need to use this adjective is going to be used actually as these because it's plural. This way would be a bit informal. So instead of writing this way, we can actually write something that is going to be more formal. For instance, you can write regarding this, in regard to this. Regarding this is a good form to address a previous sentence or a previous topic that we were discussing. So regarding this is a good form to say in this way. In this way will be more like a spoken form of saying something like this. It's less formal than regarding this. Regarding this then will increase or will help us to have better lexical resources presentation. That's why it's going to be actually make it better. I agree with people only concerned when we say I agree with people only concerned, I agree with people only concerned. See, there are two disconnections. Then the there is no correct predicate. I mean, there's no correct construction in the sentence. There is disconnection that is not being accompanied by devices that are very important, as that, you know, that is helping me to address what is accompanying the sentence, the fact that it's actually with the sentence itself. So in this case, we should just pay attention to that, because actually we're not really, I agree with people, I agree with people. So if you say, I agree with people, you're just saying a fact. Oh, I agree with people. That's all you're saying. I agree with people, and after I agree with people, there is going to come something like because, a reason for that to agree with. Therefore, if you say I agree with people, then right after that, you need to give an explanation of that. So you need to say why. But it's not the case. This student just wants to address that. Let us see again, that agrees with people, not just because he agrees with people, he agrees with the fact about people. So it's not that you agree with people, you agree with the fact. So you agree that people are only concerned. See, it's like are only concerned. Again, then we have the auxiliary, and the device only is also going right after the auxiliary. So all devices, all frequencies are also, all connectivities are also going, are always going right after the auxiliary. That's important to consider. This student is doing something that is good, after all. Are concerned, that is the passive voice. It's got the verb to be, that main verb in past participle, so that's a good work that is done there. It's got a passive voice at least, so that's a good part that is not missing. That actually is, that is helping this student to at least hold on a better score, because it's showing passive voice. Passive voice will make their writing more formal, and it's going to help us on lexical resources use. Why is themselves and not himself? Because we are reflecting, I mean, we are talking about people. So we are just actually referring to people. That is why is themselves. People are themselves, not himself. So that is important to keep in mind. If you are going to use a reflexive form, that reflexive form has to show and has to mirror exactly the subject that we are referring to. In this case, people are not himself. Himself is he. We're talking about people, that therefore we are talking about they. That is why themselves, it will be the reflexive form to be used correctly, correlating people in this case. Yeah, 3 days. 3 days can be anything, like 3 days, but not exactly days off. So it's a free day for one. It's a free day for me to work more, maybe. Or so this is called word choice. You always need to refer to or write the words that are correctly expressing the idea that you like to come across with, that you like to just deliver. So in this case, 3 days is actually very general and does not exactly address what you're trying to communicate. You don't want to say 3 days. You want to say days off, which is actually the days that you are now working, because 3 days, that does not exactly mean that you are in a day off. So that's important to always remember. And like this case of use is called the word choice. This is not a grammar mistake. This is regarding the lexical resources use. The lexical resources use. I mean, in lexical resources, what kind of language are you are using? So that is important to consider. Or holidays, not no considering. In this case, this is how the sentence was in the beginning, no considering. But we are going to write no when we have a noun after. And we are going to write not when we have a verb or we have an adjective after. So in this case, the word no does not apply. And this is a very serious grammar mistake. It's actually grammar and use of English mistake. So it's, complies with both things. So we're going to use the word no when after the word no, there is a noun, a situation maybe, or something subjective. Like when you say there is no solution. Although there always is something, but that I like, there's always something. Or there is no bus available. Oh, there is no bus available at this time. There is no solution for this problem. Yes, you use no because then after that, we have something that is called a noun. In this case, it's just a concept, a solution. The solution could be something more tangible, but in this case, the no attacks like the fact of the solution. And this is more like tangible, right? It's like a noun that is actually an object. Therefore, we are going to use no when we have nouns. We are going to use not when we have not great or not high. Just to give some examples of sentences. Not working. Not traveling. Therefore, we are going to use not when we are using an adjective or when we are using a verb. In those cases, we use not. You know, there are different options that we can write just before the not. This is, or we can come with this. It's like there is no solution, or this solution is not great. This solution is not great. So that can be one example of that, using like not. But actually, we pay attention, right? This is an adjective. Then not high enough. Solution. That's more intangible. That is more a concept. Let us work right now with something like more tangible. So an object. This post, like a post, or this fence. See, so we are building a fence for people not to trespass, or so that fence is not high enough. Not. We are using not because actually we are referring to, in this case, adjectives, right? Not working. I am not working. It is not working. It is not working. The computer is not working. What happened? I don't know. It is not working. That it refers to the computer. And then not traveling. They are not, or they are not traveling right now because of this COVID restrictions. Flights outside the country or to other places. I don't really know how is this right now, but flights outside the country are not allowed. So therefore, they are not traveling at the moment. So this is the way we are going to use no versus not. So it's important to keep in mind how this is used. Therefore, a couple of things that are important that I consider that is important to address. Be aware of this. These. In this case, this cannot be like in the past because you are using usually. When you are using the frequency usually, basically we cannot write in the past. We can write in the past if we are already addressing the past, but in this case, this student it's mentioning and it's writing in present time. So the aspects that is addressing are in the present in a general way. That is why using actually usually refers to the present time that is writing about. Therefore, he cannot address then with the past later on. That is why we cannot really, like, that's why usually this happens. And why happens is with S, because this is singular. This is like similar than saying it. It's actually an it. It's a situation. It is something, but it is it. This happens. So it's in the present, and as the form of using the third person in singular. More specifically, I mean it. It cannot be she's happening. No, right? Or she happens, or he happens. No, right? That doesn't fit. So it's got to be it. It happens. So it's a third person use. So this happens. Some of the things that we can address that are important to see. These two tend to, but then we have the use of to. And if we are using to, the next word when to is in the use of a main verb, like in this case, you are using to as the preposition of a main verb. We need to write that verb always in infinitive form. We cannot really use that in any other form than just in this case is like the third the past participle. But actually, I cannot use the past participle. How can I use forgotten? The only way to use forgotten is that if we are using the present perfect, right? Has forgotten, have forgotten, had forgotten, right? Or if you are using in active voice the being, it has been forgotten. They have been forgotten by these people have been forgotten. Yes, that's going to be okay. But then we need have, or in its case, we need haven't and been, or hasn't been, or had and been, in order to use that. But when we're using to, we are actually calling for just the original form of the word and the what we know is the infinitive form. Basically, there are the other things that are just misuses, basically. Therefore, again, these and these. When we think about, like, what is the problem, or what is the big problem that sometimes we have? It's not only that it's grammar. When we have problems with the grammar, it's not only just because of the grammar. It's because of the grammar, but also how this sounds. So we need to realize, and we need to just make ourselves, think about it and say, okay, so how these or these differences are, and how do they sound? If I'm going to say something that is plural, I cannot use this. Would you give me a 7? Would you give me a high score if I say something like, well, these companies, I mean, like these companies, but these in singular. Esta compañías, todas esta compañías, todas, all, esta, these companies. How does that sound? Spokenly, I mean, when we speak in English, you can just hide it a little bit. I mean, it doesn't sound that bad. But when you see it like written in this case, right? Well, I mean, if you're speaking this, you might confuse me. And then I thought that you said the plural, but you say the singular. This is basically well hidden and not really visible when we are speaking. But when we are writing, that's it. I mean, there's nothing else we can do. And the difference, how bad that sounds. It sounds really bad. Think in Spanish. I mean, I'm not telling you to think in Spanish, but if we just make the relation with this and think about, like, for instance, the use of have and has. Esta compañía tienen muchos empleados. esta compañía tiene muchos empleados. Should I give you a 7? Should I give you a good score for that kind of? How does it sound? It sounds horrible in Spanish, really horrible. And now we are also missing empleados, right? And we're just missing with employees, and we just cut the S. We just don't write the S. Then now we have a spelling problem also. But look how it sounds. Esta compañía tiene muchos empleados. Esta compañía tienen muchos empleados. Sounds horrible. How can I just give you a good score? How can I even think about 5.5 with you? So we have to pay attention so closely. And we have to always check on these mistakes, because they might not look that bad because they look very innocent there, right? But they are very poisonous. I mean, it's poisonous, about to say something. Right? They're really bad. I mean, they sound really bad. They make the language be actually totally wrongly used. And that is why sometimes we just surprise ourselves and say, oh, I'm using a lot of lexical resources. I'm using the passive voice. I'm using good vocabulary. And look what I have. I have a 6. I have a 6.5 only. And I'm a C1 student. I'm an advanced student. And I got this score. Yeah, because you had misuses. And also not only that, but you had those uses that were really, really bad, or sounded really bad, or really just make the language being very incorrectly used, that it will make me doubt, because you might speak very well, or you might speak and use the language with flexibility when you speak, but when you write, then you show a lot of mistakes. Well, that happens usually with people who actually went to an English-speaking country and learn English just by ear. It's like just they learn English while they were living, but never usually did something academically or something academic actually while they were living in another country, or while they are still living in another country. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that, I mean, I'm not criticizing any of these uses, but I'm saying for IELTS, actually, it's not really the ideal to be. That is why it's important to keep close attention to that. Therefore, why is it 4? Well, we know right away that it's not really coherent. We know that grammar inaccuracy, or the form in which it's showing the grammar, it's really inefficient. It has a lot of mistakes, a lot of misuses. Not everything is grammar, but also he has not only grammar, but also he has spelling problems. It has incorrect word collocation problems, word choice problems. All this group of problems are just showing me as an examiner. For instance, if I were an examiner, I would say, like, okay, if I'm the examiner, I would say, okay, it's showing me that the grammar, or the accuracy, the range of the grammar use is not actually appropriate, and that's why it would also have a lower score in this part. Lexical resources. Is there kind of a special use in here? Is there something that we can do just besides the use of? Okay, so we have the present perfect use. Then we saw that there was a passive voice. I don't remember where it was, but there was a passive voice. However, there is not really a big deal. I mean, there is not really a lot of effort to try to actually improve lexical resources with the elements that we need in lexical resources. If you are not in that part of the lexical resources class, probably this is going to be new for you, okay? But then you are going to arrive to that point in your course. There are 3 aspects when we think about lexical resources. Those 3 aspects also involve the arguments, but we just put it all in lexical resources in order to improve generally, because it always touches lexical resources. When we think about lexical resources, we think about the quality of our language, right? The use of the passive voice, the use of modals, the use of the ing, the use of conditional forms. Therefore, those are especially something easy to use in your lexical resources class, you should be using it already in your writing. Therefore, I don't think that's going to be very difficult to start using lexical resources in quality. Then the second aspect to consider when we are improving the writing itself, and thinking about doing something that is stronger, more elevated, also think about the arguments themselves and how we are going to potentiate the arguments, and also lexical resources, like with the same token where we're just doing two things. Using adjectives with nouns, using adverbs with verbs is going to potentiate, repotentiate, and not only the argument is going to be stronger with the use of adjectives and adverbs, but also this is going to have a very positive impact over the lexical resources bit, because we start using now compound nouns. You know, the use of some adjectives and some adverbs can also be considered as the use of compound nouns. Therefore, but we are using a higher form of lexical resources and at the same time potentiating the argument. For instance, is there something that we could have done if you look into any sentence here? In many cases, these days are marked, okay, he's using here lexical, that's passive voice. So that's complying with quality. See, passive voice. As a special festival or religious days are taken, that's also a passive voice. Is this passive voice helping me to increase that for? Not exactly. Not exactly. I would say that probably just because you are using a better form of lexical resources, we might go to 4.5. And actually, let's see if you deserve 5. Between 4 and 5, I would say. But the problem is that sentences are still too weak. You're not really referring exactly to enjoy themselves, so probably not 5. You don't deserve 5. That's it. I forgot that. So that's going to be probably what you deserve, really, because you need to be stronger in the way that you're going to write. So, okay, so let us take a look of a sentence here. Says these days of holidays, not considering the origin of this day. Not considering the origin of this day. Do you think that can be improved, origin? Is that they consider the origin of this day? Maybe I am considering the origin of this day. Oh, this was the Independence Day. I am considering the origin of this day. But actually, I'm not paying attention to that exactly. Or maybe I know more or less just generally about it, but not exactly about it. So probably I think that origin can be the real origin. So probably that can be changed, or that can be improved with an adjective, right? I just got lost now. Yeah. So that can be the real origin of these days. So that that adjective will help that kind of argument, considering the real origin of this day. So how that not only sounds better, but actually it completes the idea better. The argument gets stronger on the exact meaning that it wants to show. See, considering the origin of this day, or considering the real origin of this day, what is more powerful? What is actually? I thought some of you spoke. Sorry. So let's see the idea. See, not considering the origin of this day. You're not considering the origin of this day. Try to make yourself the idea about this. How, what is the impact that this argument is having on you? So now let us see this. Not considering the real origin of this day. Not considering the real origin of this day. I think the real origin of this day makes the argument stronger in the intention of this delivery, making it more coherent, making it stronger. Therefore, not in this case, but especially supporting the thesis or the reason that we have in the introduction strongly. That is why using adjectives, the correct adjectives, and the adverbs are going to support our arguments in a more accurate way, a stronger way. Our writings will become actually wider, but also accurate, broader. Somewhere right there, somewhere there. I mean, you have to consider that I'm just seeing this for the first time. This is one of our teachers. This is one of our teachers' correction. It's not. Therefore, I try to just I pick on it and I just say, okay, so let us see what is there. But basically, this. I mean, it's easy to just figure. All right, so that is important to keep in mind, and the things that we have to remember in this case. I'm just going to show you something quickly about another writing that is important also to check on. This writing certainly is a better writing. It works, and it does work. Am I? No, I am. Okay, good. So 7 approximately with a higher tendency. What does it mean, a higher tendency? That you are close to actually going all the way up to 7.5, basically like that. Now let us take a look. This is a graphic. Now, when we look into this structure, that seems very accurate, right? I mean, it looks very clean and it looks very well organized. Therefore, we say, oh, this is perfect. Might not be that perfect. If it were perfect, if it was perfect, it would be 9, but it's not 9. So let us see. The line graph illustrates the production of waste by 3 different companies in 1.5 decade. The information is provided, she's in passive voice, in tons and divided into periods of 5 years. Okay, that's good. It's just showing, see, the introduction is just showing overall what elements and components we have. Overall, one company constantly declined its level of demand. In contrast, another company continually increased its amount of waste, and the sum of garbage in 3 companies was fewer in 2015 in comparison with 2000. That's pretty good. That's just, this student goes right exact to the point, so it actually nails it. And that overall is actually well done. Is given more or less 3 variables or three small tendencies in this case. Okay, so that develops enough. Let us see if there are the 2 things that are important here. Let us see is if the you know, the what do you call the tendencies and comparisons are actually present. Company A had a higher. Now he's comparing. Okay, that's good. It's not only comparing, but it's comparing inside of a fluctuation. So this is good. This student is given the fluctuation and also putting the comparison right in the middle. Sometimes we make comparisons only using connectors. So sometimes we make comparisons but we are not that clear. We are not expressing clearly that we are making a comparison. That is important to know, that making comparisons is just as important as just showing tendencies. We need to show a tendency to make a comparison, right? But then we know that if we are making 2 or 3 comparisons at least, then we know that we are on the right track. So we need to make comparisons. It's not only about just don't be too subjective in the comparison. Not just because you write in contrast and just write the other tendency. It's just that's it. You take it for granted. I mean, okay, I just put the connector and I know you know that this is a comparison. Not exactly. Examiners have to read this very quickly. That doesn't mean that they don't do it well. I mean, they're doing this for years and they just have to look at the writing and they know. But I'm saying is, you need to make it easier for the examiner to realize that you're making comparisons. Clearly, make it obvious. What is going to be an obvious form of making comparisons? Using comparative adjectives. higher, lower, higher than. These two tendencies are different. This tendency is higher than the other. If we compare, we are going to realize that this was lower in this run, but then higher in the second stage. So that is why it's important to use comparative adjectives, not only connectors. So that's going to help us a lot in terms of making it actually better in that case. What's that? No, I got that picture. Is that? Oh, the Epson printer, something. Is that? I don't want that. I need to put this away. Thank you very much, but I don't like it. Some update about the printer. Okay. Therefore, that's correct. Now, although the majority of the magnitude that are actually proposed correctly with the use of passive voice can be observed. Constant decrease that you see is using the, we need those two elements to propose tendency, right? We need the tendency itself, and the magnitude of the tendency is doing it. And it's basically done it, it's basically done it in all the writing, but here it's missing it, you know. No, wait a minute. No, it's not. It's actually doing it correctly. Company C notably, actually, that is the magnitude of the increase. So actually, this is not correct. I made this correction. I mean, not the complete correction, but this was an analysis that we did with our teachers. The teacher of the teachers giving a best. I just didn't realize that. Man, I'm gonna have to talk with my teacher. So I told my teacher, I said, well, actually, you see what you're doing. I mean, you're missing the magnitude here. No, you're not missing any magnitude. Actually, notably, is the magnitude of increase. It was my mistake. I made this change. I told my teacher, well, actually, don't miss that. And she was like, oh yeah, well, I thought I did. No, I did. You did. But actually, we didn't talk about it. I just say, don't miss that. But actually, nothing is missed here. It's just perfect. Notably increased. All right. I made a mistake. Now, let us pay attention to this that is very, very, very important. If you are describing the writing task 1, especially in the graphic, or you can also do this in the letter, but with another aspect, is the use of the past perfect. It's important to use the past perfect. Now, this student uses the past perfect and he uses it correctly. Let us see. Well, actually, this is a different, we're going to do this later because the score in this writing basically is different. The use of the past perfect. This student writes the following. It says, before that, it had been, I'm going to give an example, increasing. If I have a graphic right here, and I have 2000, 2005, 2010, 2020, all in the past. And I say, so let us say that I'm going to write now using what? Oh, had increased. The past perfect, we are going to see how to use it. The past perfect, it's good to use. There are not a lot of students who actually use the past perfect. The use of had and then the past participle. Why? Because usually they don't find the way to do it. The best way to use the past perfect, which is actually, it's a C1 form of English. It's more than just B1 or B2. It's actually maybe like B2 C1. I would dare to say that using the past perfect and using it in a academic level and using it in exam and using it in front of an examiner, in this case you're writing, however is good, or using it in speaking as well, would actually be a C1 use. Okay, we'll go there. So when we go there, it says had been. Let us say that first you describe between 2010 and 2020. The hell I'm doing? 2020. The tendency was steadily declining to finally reach I don't know, to finally reach 10% or whatever it was, 10%. But this is interesting because I described this first, and this is already the past. So I am describing the past. But now, in order to have a better use of lexical resources, or like you describe that portion first, and then you describe it before that past. When you describe before that past, 2000, 2005 or so, then you have to use the past perfect, right? Because you are going to make a relation between what was happening here versus here. But you are here today in 2021. So this is you. Let us, a lady. This is you. This is you and this is 2021, but actually you're talking about the past. You are already talking about the past, all right? Was steadily declining, was. So you are referring to this. But now, before that, it had been increasing. Now you're using the past perfect. So now you are showing that you are strong, that you are very strong in this part of the use. You know how to control the present, the past, and the past before that past. Therefore, you are dealing, and you can say that it is clearly seen that, let's say, it is clearly seen, that's the present, is used in passive voice, but that's perfect, all right, to say, the present, I start in the present, I refer to the past, and I finally end up with something that is actually before the past of the past, before the past. Not before the past of the past, that I don't really know, that will be maybe a mix something. No, I should insist in, no, I need more devices. I need more devices to go to the past of the past. To the past of the past of the past. All right, forget it. See, it is clearly seen, that is the present. That is the present. So this is management of the language. That is seen, it is clearly seen in present that between this and this year was already, you went to the past, and before that, it had been increasing. So you're using the three times. You're using the three forms. You are using the present to present the situation. You are using the past to relate to one of the situations, to describe one situation, and you're using the past perfect to end up the sentence describing that's something that happened before that past. This is a very good use because then we are using the present, the past perfect. That shows management. Sometimes I have questions from students. How can I improve this? I have a good lexical resources. I have good management of lexical resources. I know that I have to keep increasing and working on vocabulary or trying to find synonyms that are not intermediate or upper intermediate, trying to find synonyms that in vocabulary are C1, C2, higher vocabulary. Yes, it's true. But this is another form to do it also, or another form to support. Saying something about the past, but then right after that, relating something that happened before that past perfect. And that past perfect can be even then potentiated by using the past perfect progressive. It had been increasing until. It had been increasing. It's not only that. Actually, yes, we did it. Actually, we did it. That was, I would say, that because it had increased, but actually it had been increasing. It's actually better. So let's hope that all this help in order to actually improve these forms. Therefore, this writing actually is good. It has a good form. So that is why the quantity was just over. Just like, however, 15 years before actually he was using just the past simple. This past perfect is something that we actually included. The teacher included here. I mean, that was not my correction. It's not my correction. I asked for this student's correction. So I say, okay, I need to know how this student is doing. I'm not going to say the names. I don't say names. So I just say, okay, no, I pick some students. Sometimes I write to them personally when I see that there are many problems. I just write personally to them. Or sometimes I say, okay, now we can work on this. So we look for two things: a writing that is very faulty and a writing that is not that bad and it's actually really good. It's getting up there and it's going there strongly. All right. Now here's the problem. 3 companies have presented different trends. Actually, they did not. There's nothing that they have, because if you write have presented, when you are using the present perfect, have presented, have shown, you are including the present time. You are including today. That kind of situation has had an impact on today's day. It might happen, but actually that's part of an opinion, and we cannot really write an opinion. So we are going to be using have as a present perfect incorrectly. She said, like, okay, but if I use the present perfect and it's incorrect to use the present perfect in that description, why using the past perfect is correct? Because the past perfect goes before the simple past, not before the present perfect. That is why you can use it. So there is no direct correlation between the present perfect and the past perfect. There is, but actually not in this case. For what we are describing, there is no correlation. It makes no sense to say something in the present perfect and then in the past perfect. It does make correlation to say something in the past simple and before that, the past perfect. That is why the past perfect is correctly used, because it's referring to something that happened before that past. Questions?
Mauricio,
Yes.
could you explain again the conclusion why is from use the past?
The present perfect.
Yes, that.
If you say the present perfect, if you use the present perfect for something that happened in the past, then it's because that situation of the past is having an impact on today's life or in today's day. If you say, for instance, yesterday, oh, yesterday I talked to my boss. That is only referring to the past time and the situation is already finished, right? I talked to my boss yesterday. That's a simple past. Whether this is having an impact on any part of our relationship with our boss, it's independent. I mean, it does not really, it's not really intrinsically put in the sentence. You can add it, you can subtract it. Actually, the simple past does not really care about how emotional something is or how well or bad dealt with or who you dealt with. But when you use the present perfect, you want to pay more attention on how this is having impact on today's life as well. For instance, you arrive to the work and then you say to your coworker, I have talked with them. I have talked with them. The have talked is actually put in a situation that it's actually more overtly regarding more to the situation itself. And for some reason, it's having an impact on today's life. It's still important for you. Therefore, using the past simple, just referring to the past, I talked to my boss yesterday. is not having not having real impact on today's life. The implication is done by you, but in the language, there's only one way to show that implication is to use the past perfect, in which the situation, it is still important today, or you are assigning importance to that situation. That is why then the present perfect will be a form of showing how something that started in the past is still affecting on today's life. I have seen that movie so many times. I have seen that movie. Yeah, but that was in the past. Yes, but I still remember this. Or see, that intrinsic part of this situation or movie is still impacting you today. However, when we are writing in the writing test one, using the present perfect would intrinsically mean that this situation is already impacting on today's life, and it's not. Is it a problem that the tendency went down for you still today? No. No. Why not? Because we're not having opinions here. There is no opinions. So for two reasons. Why? Because the situation already finished and it's not impacting your life nowadays. And second, because you have no opinion about this. Okay? One, it's a more grammar form to see it, a more grammarly form to see it. And the second one is actually a more intrinsic way, or like a more like subjective way of doing it. This has changed, yes, but it's because it's having impact in today's life. That is why the present perfect is not used for things that happened in the past, and when the past is only needs to be described as something that happened, and that's it, because it's not having an impact on today's life. Does that respond to your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, can you give me an example about something that happened in the past and did not have any kind of impact in you, and something that happened in the past that is still having impact in you? I'm not going to say in one of those you need to use the simple past, and in another one you need to use the present perfect. So I want you to relate two situations, one that had an impact on you in the past, how you're going to express that idea, and one situation that did not have an impact on today's life with you, and how you're going to say that in the past.
I would say yesterday I went to see a movie.
Or, very good, that's the past simple. So it's like, I went to see a movie. You don't even have to say yesterday. We say yesterday because to complete the sentence and to complement it well, right? Or to give the time of the exact time on it. Actually, I went to see a movie. We know that it was in this day, so it was in a very like close past. All right, that's correct. And how would you say something that started in the past, happened in the past, but then it's still affecting you?
I have seen a movie who I really enjoyed. I don't know. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have seen this movie who I did enjoy. Okay, now we're mixing things, all right? I mean, you enjoyed that time, but the problem is that, okay, who I did enjoy. Okay, so the actually did enjoy is a complement of that half. Actually, no, you're right. I mean, you can mix both. But I have seen a movie who I did enjoy, and probably you're still thinking about that movie. It's still important for you. But it's not important that you watch it yesterday, yesterday, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The importance is the content that this movie had and the impact that it's still causing on you. That is the difference. Okay. It's super late. So now, anybody else? Anybody else? I'm just going to make a last comment. I know that this went a little bit longer, but it's good to have this kind of ideas here. So how this student can improve? Well, as soon as you start having 7.5, the correction starts becoming more strict in mistakes. Therefore, this use was actually incorrect. Probably this, right? The use of the present perfect also was not really well, appropriately used. Maybe without this two, that could be reaching 7.5. I think it's very close to, it's right about there. Let us see, 9. Okay, 9 is expressing number with number, 9 tons. Yes, yes, it's a strictly a number expression. Yeah, so I was thinking like she should have written 9, right? But I think it's accepted. I might have a lot of people who are going to just be against this, but actually I think it's okay. I mean, you're expressing, you like to create a relate or correlate directly to that with that 9. So that's just so like 9 tons. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. It's more related to the number itself than just the description of the number. That's why we just write in the number. It's okay. This cannot happen. You are missing a subject before the is. How can you say that? Every time you use is, you need to take a look of the. You need to take a look to look if you in front of is there is a subject. In this case, there is no subject. There are people that believe that is. What is the subject of is? Fundamental. Well, actually, but fundamental is what? Something is fundamental. So that it is a subject, is it. So that is important not to miss the subjects, and especially we have the tendency to miss it in the in these cases. So I think that's very point out by the teacher. They will do worse. No, actually that's just in this situation. All right, so let us see. There are not a lot of mistakes. That's approximately 6.5 to 7. There are a couple of one at least unclear sentence, which is actually this one. But I like to point out to something. Let us see the question, and then we move on to the next part of the class. Some people think that instead of preventing climate change, we need to find a way to live with. To what extent you agree or disagree? We need to change these kind of questions. I mean, we are doing a lot of agree or disagree questions, but well, some of us are doing it because it's more complicated for us or more difficult, and it's okay if we just practice more on these questions. But I do not agree with this system because, in my opinion, if society does not stop this dramatically, this will do worse every year. All right, that's a good form of expressing that idea. Is using the conditional correctly. Thus, is using a present simple, and then you using will after the comma, so the conditional is correctly used. Then what is it? See, this will do worse every year. If we do not stop this, this will do worse. Let us see if these arguments really support that. Global warming, in fact, has impacted the temperature of the ocean. Does not stop this. As a result of the sea levels dramatic increase in the last decade. Okay. I do not agree. There are people that believe that it is fundamental to find a way to live with global warming. I do not agree because if we do not stop this, we'll do worse. Okay, let's see. Has impacted the temperature of the ocean. Okay, so that's global warming. As a result, sea levels automatically increase. That's global warming. If this situation continued, yeah, you needed to change continuous by continued because you are using here the second conditional. When you use would, the verb, the main verb of the previous sentence, right? It has to be in the past time. If this situation continued, the coastal cities would be affected, and the people will have. I don't know if I will use the people or those people. Well, or actually people itself, and people will have to migrate to other, and maybe people and those residents. It will be better than people. So we need to improve vocabulary. Yeah, this student is doing very well. I think just disconnection of this idea here probably caused that 6.57 but it's right there. So I think vocabulary has to improve in this. Now, people will have to migrate to other cities. Another aspect to consider is that every word classifier affects several nations worldwide. Consequently, the habitat of many natural species are impacted. It's also important to mention that the global warming has crucial impact on natural food change. If society does not stop this dramatic situation, this will do worse every year. Consequently, the habitat of many natural species and animals is impacted. It is also important to mention that global warming has a crucial impact on the natural food chain. It is well known that some species have disappeared in the last years as a result that their source of food has been affected. As a result of their source of, as a result. As a result of, it will be better than that. As a result of the fact that, or as a result of the consequence that, or the impact that their source of food has been affected. The impact of the impact. As a result of the impact. No, it is not really well. See, there's something here happened. See, it's not really clear. This sentence is not that clear. There's something happening with this sentence. It's not really, see, that's probably why also has a problem. So let us go back to this sentence and check it again. Now forget this. So let us forget this with all due respect. Let us forget this. Let's put it down here and analyze the sentence itself. Let's see if it really complies with something or it really does get something. It is well known that some societies have disappeared in the last years as a result. All that is perfect. As a result of. It's not as a result that, it's a result of. So this is incorrect. As a result of, as a result of the, as a result of the scarcity that food now we gotta let me just put my mind together on this, okay? There's another, yeah, no, all this is actually not really well written. It is well known that some species have disappeared in the last years as a result of the scarcity, and their food chain has been affected. The scarcity in which food chain has. It is well known that some species have disappeared in the last years as a result of the scarcity in which food chain has dropped. I think that sentence will make more sense though. With all due respect to the teacher's correction, I mean, I'm not really, actually the teacher actually is pointing this problem. I mean, it's just like, well, there is a problem with the sentence. I agree with the teacher. But then I just take this, I ask for this correction. So I totally agree with, and I think that would be better. It is well known that some species have disappeared in the last years as a result of the scarcity in which food chain has dropped. I don't know if the word is dropped. The food chain has has been, it's not dropped. See, word choice is not correct here. So it is well known that some species have disappeared in the last years as a result of the scarcity in which food chain has been affected. Actually, it was not bad. Actually, it's good. See, probably it's because it's about 9 o'clock. So I start getting like, see, I start getting like, pieces are like brain pieces start getting like disconnected. It is well known that some species have disappeared in the last years as a result of the scarcity in which food chain has been affected. In which food chain has been no, because it's been affected, is goes then. See, we are just not really making, it's already coming down. So it's been through. I think this is better. That's it. So now I think the word choice is correct. Now the word choice is correct. See, it's quite very, very close. Now working on these mistakes and this sentence, now I think this can reach 7.5. I think it still need to have some work in adjectives and adverbs, and I still need to improve some vocabulary words, okay? It is one note that some species have disappeared in the last years as a result of the scarcity in which food chain has been through. Yes, because there is something that something happened, and this is because you are going through something. So that is a scarcity. Perfect. Now it has a really good sense, or the correct sense. A sentence. That's it. So now I'm just adding some connector there because we consider that should be addressed. Then here is stopped. You're using the passive voice is stopped, but actually you need the object for that stop, but you don't have that object. You're just actually using this sentence as active voice. So that is not good. The humanity as a whole as a one thing, as a one group of people. So that's why it's not all. That's it. So I think those are the aspects that we need to address. But one thing to go again, and with this we finish this part because we need to get to this end. Because in my opinion, it does not drop the situation. This will do worse every year. If we don't stop the situation, if we don't stop, I think what we need to go is if we don't stop the situation. This is what you really need to address. If we don't stop the situation, there are consequences. In fact, the human being responsible to stop this important problem. Okay, so that's addressing it. Global warming, in fact, has impacted temperature as a result of that or not. If this situation continues, the culture will be affected, and the people will have early migration. Another aspect to consider is that every summer for the effect nationwide, consequently, the habitat of natural species is impacted. Okay. So we're talking about this worst, so getting worse, but we need to address that we need to do something. It is also important to mention that global warming has crucial impact on national food chain. It is well known some species have disappeared. Okay, we do that. Now, if governments or societies, if government, societies, or the world in change works on this, and we do not stop this kind of effects from happening, our world is going to improve much better, and we're not going to see this problem. That's it. I'm just trying to complement this. Well, actually, I'm not writing it because we don't have time right now. We're really, really, really late. But I just wanted to tell you that I think you should complement this, and your final sentence should be, you need a final sentence. Final sentence emphasizing the fact that all these aspects, or all these consequences Oh my goodness. All these consequences must be stopped. Must be stopped. That's it. A final sentence emphasizing that all these consequences must be stopped. Because if you emphasize your idea and these consequences must be stopped, then you are more coherent with this. If society does not stop the situation, because what you do here is that things are becoming worse. But because in my opinion, we need to stop this. So probably a final sentence emphasizing that we have to stop this will do much better in order to be more coherent with that. Okay, so this is not that bad, but I think it influences also in not just getting 7 very strongly. It's a 7, yes, but it's very weak. That's it. So other than that, I think let's hope these corrections help, and let's hope these corrections give us the clue on, or the clues on how to improve, how to analyze something, how to develop it, how to be coherent, to be cohesive, how to have a good progression, and how to improve also not only our grammar mistakes, but also our lexical resources, improve the use of lexical resources. That is important. Has always been. Very late. Let us go to